Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. And I'll tell you what, guys, things are getting pretty crazy out there. If you guys are like us and a lot of our clients, you're looking for a safe place to store some cash and capital and waiting for these opportunities that we see that are about to present themselves. So if you guys are interested, make sure you guys reach out. We got a link in our show notes for a discovery call to reach out to us and see how you can get prepared for the upcoming opportunities. But today, we are excited. We've got Rod Khleif joining us. Rod, I want to start off right at kind of maybe some of the meat of this, but I'm excited to hear about, how you were able to create $50 million of wealth, the mindset that it took to get there, but then also you apparently lost $50 million. And I want to talk about kind of the mindset that it took to kind of climb out of that hole and not only get back to where you were, but surpass that as well. So, Rod, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. Looking forward to this. So, yeah, if you why don't I just get started? I'll go back quite a ways actually, because I think it'll lend kind of some framework to what we're going to talk about. So, I'm an immigrant.
Yeah, perfect.
I was born in the Netherlands. Wooden shoes and windmills, Holland, and immigrated when I was 6 years old with my brother Albert and my mother's Vantje. We didn't have much. We ended up in Denver, Colorado, and really struggled initially. In fact, I remember eating expired food. We shopped at an expired food store. We had powdered milk with our cereal in the morning because it was cheaper than real milk. And I wore clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I finally got disgusted when I was 14 and lied about my age at Burger King so I could make some money flipping burgers so I could buy my own clothes. And I'm sure people on your show or listening may have had it harder than I did, or maybe even have it harder now with all this economic craziness. But I knew I wanted more. And luckily, my mom had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And she was a bit of an entrepreneur with her babysitting money. She actually invested successfully in the stock market and IPOs and also invested in real estate and no formal education. And her first real estate acquisition was a house right across the street from us when I was 14. She paid about 30 grand. When I was 17, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep. I'm like, what? You made 20 grand? This was when 20 grand was a lot of money. You made 20 grand. You didn't do anything? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I got into real estate, living at home. My first year, I made about 8 grand. My second year, maybe 10,000. But my third year, I made over 100,000. This is 1980. 100,000 was a lot of money. And so what happened between year 2 and year 3 that caused me to 10x my income? Well, what happened was I met a guy. I was actually working for him and I was dating his daughter. And he taught me about the importance of mindset and psychology and how really 80 to 90% of your success in anything is just that, your mindset and psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the mechanical stuff we talk about on our podcast. And so fast forward to today, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I've rented long-term in 3 states. I own thousands of apartment units. In 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. And you might say, wow. And I said, wow. And I got a head so big, I could barely fit it through a door. I thought I was a real estate god. And when that happens, God or the universe will occasionally give you a nice little smackdown. Well, that was 2008 and 9. I lost $50 million, like you said. And so what I'm known for, at my boot camps and on my podcast is talking about the mindset and psychology. Like you say, it took that $50 million to lose in the first place. And then what it took to recover from that. So I'm happy to drill down on some of those strategies if you'd like, wherever you want to go with this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I want to talk about is
okay.
What was you said you met a guy at that third year. What was some of the strategies, insights that he's able to share with you, Rod?
Well, the first thing is you really got to know what you want. You've got to create what Napoleon Hill in his book Think and Grow Rich calls a burning desire. And so if you come to one of my boot camps, like I said, I was telling you guys before we recorded, I just had 700 people that paid to attend one last weekend with me virtually. And I've got another one coming up in January. But the reason I bring that up is the first hour and a half is spent doing goals. I call it goal setting on steroids, because how do you get anything if you don't know what it is? You got to know what it is you want, right? You've got to know what it is you want and why you want it. So that's the initial piece. And when I lost everything in 2008, I had to reassociate with what I wanted. I got very, very reassociated with my goals and why those goals had to happen. So that's the first piece. Because like I said, you've got to create that burning desire to push through fear or to push through limiting beliefs. When I immigrated to the United States, I didn't speak English and I got thrown into school and I found out what bullies were for the first time. And, I got beat up occasionally. And then, my mom, God bless her, proud Dutch woman that she was, thought it'd be a great idea to send me to school in wooden shoes and those leather shorts the Germans wear for Oktoberfest. So I got my butt kicked again. And then, there were a couple of bullies lived down in the end of our street, and she chased them off with a fly swatter. So the next day, a butt kicking. And so I came up with this limiting belief that I wasn't good enough. I used to ask myself, how can I show them I'm good enough? And which of course presupposed that I didn't believe I was. And, so a lot of people have these limiting belief systems. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not analytical enough. That was another one of mine. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough money. And there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because 99% of them are BS, but we think they're real and they're not. So you got to have that burning desire to push through that, to push through fear, to push through past these limiting beliefs, or maybe just to get uncomfortable. The comfort zone's a nice warm place and nothing freaking grows there, right? So you got to have, like I said, you got to want it. You got to want more to push through that. So it starts with that. Then after that, you get clear on what it is you want. You create that burning desire. You got to make a decision. And when I say decision, I don't mean dip a toe in the water or 1 foot in, 1 foot out sort of a thing. I mean, you're in. Like if an extreme example of this would be if you're going to attack the island, you're burning your ships because you're taking their ships home. Okay, that's a decision. It's done. Okay, and then once you make that decision, you're no longer just interested. You are committed. You're like a train on a track. Now, if you're just interested, you're going to you'll get knocked off track, right? And so, that commitment and that decision, and that commitment is the first piece. But then really it all starts with taking that first step. And Dr. Martin Luther King said, you take that first step in faith and the next step will be revealed. Lao Tzu said, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, but you got to take that step. And sometimes that step can be the most important step of your life. And, I know on your show, I'm sure you get a lot of analytical people that listen like I do on mine. And, as an analytical person, sometimes they have to check off every single box before they make a move. And here's what I would say to you, if that's you listening. And that is, recognize that you can drive all the way across the United States at night with your headlight only seeing 50 feet in front of you. And you'll make it. You may have obstacles, you may have setbacks, but other people have done it before you. It's like that with any business that you go into, be it multifamily real estate, which is what I teach, or single family. I know you guys talk about that as well. But you've got to push through the fear and take that first step. And you may not see the whole path, and that's okay. But that's how it works. Here's the key is you don't want any regrets. Okay. Don't fear failure. We can talk about that a little more if you like. Fear regret. Yeah. There was this nurse in Australia, a hospice nurse. Her name was Bronnie Ware. And she took care of patients when they were about to die. And she asked them a question. And the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. You know what the number one regret was? Not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I know I'm capable of. I can't think of anything worse than that. So again, don't fear failure. We actually fail our way to success, honestly. I've a lot of people don't know this. I've built 27 businesses. And by the way, when they fail, I don't call them failures. I call them seminars. That was a $50 million seminar. It was an expensive freaking seminar, but that's what it was. Okay. It was a seminar. And so I built 27 businesses in my career, several worth tens of millions of dollars, most spectacular flaming seminars, right? We fail our way to success. I got to meet the billionaire owner of Spanx, Sarah Blakely. She's, the women's undergarments that hold it all together,
Cameron knows.
Yeah. And she's a beautiful human being anyway, but I met her at a mastermind and she told me she started with $5,000, by the way, and she was in Forbes. She's worth over $1 billion now. But she told me that her dad used to ask her and her brother once a week, "What have you failed at this week?" And I thought, what an awesome question to ask your kids so they don't fear failure. So you want me to keep going or you want to interject?
No, keep going.
All right. So the next piece is focus. Okay. Focus is power. And wherever your focus goes, that's where your energy is going to go. And so, I will tell you, some of the most successful people on the planet have the highest degree of focus. Okay. When you have incredible focus, typically it equals incredible success. But here's the thing, whatever you focus on is going to get larger, both positive or negative, which is really important in what's coming economically, which we'll dig into in a little bit here, because I think there's some serious pain coming for this country. And if you're focused on that, if you get sucked into the crap that they're putting out on the media, which I think, by the way, is going to get a lot worse after the midterms. If there's a political shift, there's a huge, influence on the media. And I think that's going to shift, and they're going to just say things are much, much worse. They're going to make things seem much worse than they even are. So I think we can expect that. But again, if you're focused on that, your blood pressure is going to go up. You're going to be negative. They asked Mother Teresa, for example, if she was anti-war. She said, no, I'm pro-peace. Kind of the same thing, but you get what I'm saying here. I get kids that call me, or even adults that call me and say, I'm trying to get out of student loan debt. I'm like, wrong statement. Make so much freaking money, the debt's irrelevant. Okay, that's kind of what I'm saying here. Focus is critical. And I don't know about you guys, but even me, I'll be sitting there watching Netflix or some movie, and I'm scrolling through social media on my phone, and when you do that, your brain is making these micro decisions every split second, and that kills your focus. Okay, so my podcast just broke 14 million downloads. And I say that as a pre-frame to what I'm going to say next, not braggadocious, but I listen to two podcasts. One of them is Tim Ferriss, and the other one is Joe Rogan. So I kind of get a little bit of both sides of the aisle. And Tim Ferriss interviews the best of the best in the world at what they do. The best athletes, Michael Phelps, NFL, NBA players, best actors, Arnold, Hugh Jackman, Ed Norton, Jamie Foxx, the billionaires like Ray Dalio, and the CEOs of the largest companies in the world like Facebook. He had Zuckerberg on, and he deconstructs their success. And the reason I bring up my downloads is he gets 14 million about a week. Okay, but anyway, so I started to hear a pattern with the people he was interviewing. Almost all of them meditate, and I'm like, what does meditation enhance? Focus, right? So focus is super critical. Anyway, I just thought that was very interesting. But, the next piece is having positive expectation. We as human beings, we connect through pain and negativity. Here, let me give you an example. If you came up to me and said, Rod, how you doing? And I said, oh my God, I am freaking fantastic. Life is amazing. You take a step back and say, okay, Rod's off his freaking meds. But if you came up to me and said, Rod, how you doing? I said, oh, dude, my back is freaking killing me. I just lost 20 grand this weekend. Woe is me. You put your arm around me and say, I feel you, brother. See, we connect through pain and negativity. So you got to be really, really careful about that, right? We focus on pain and struggle, but here's the problem. Again, whatever you focus on is what you get. And if you focus on what you don't want, what are you going to get, right? So, I will tell you that have positive expectation, decide and declare what it is that you want, and God of the universe will conspire to help you make that happen. But you've got to stand guard at the door to your mind. Okay. Again, there's so much crap out there on the news and the political stuff. Like, for example, in my podcast, I do these clips every week called Own Your Power. I just did one on the power of perseverance. And there's hundreds of them there. And they're super powerful. There's music with them. I'm really proud of them. So, I hope you'll check them out. My podcast is called Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. But even if not me, go to YouTube. Bring in the good stuff. Stand guard at the door to your mind. Bring in the good stuff, the motivational stuff. And it's going to be super important through what's coming, this economic and, storm that I believe is coming. The next piece is, you've got to pick a vehicle. And if there were ever a time to pick a freaking vehicle, it is right now. You got to decide how you're going to capitalize on what's coming, because I'm going to tell you, everything's going on sale, and we'll drill down on it a little more. But you've got to decide, if you're going to do single family, great, go learn it right now. If you're going to do multifamily, go learn it right now. If you're going to buy businesses, go learn that right now. Trade in the stock market, because once we're in the thick of this storm, it's going to be too late, because you've got to learn it. You've got to understand it. You've got to understand how to evaluate what you're doing. You've got to build relationships. And so I would say, get up to speed right now. But that leads me to the next piece. Play to your strengths. Okay. Like in my business, multifamily, it's a team sport and there's lots of different hats you can wear. Forget about maximizing your weaknesses. You hire, align, or partner for your weaknesses. Like in multifamily, you've got, there are people that find the deals and bring them in and have developed broker relationships. There's the person that analyzes the deal, that loves the spreadsheets. There's, people that are investor relations, creating relationships with investors to, bring money to your deals. There's maybe someone with construction or project management experience, or even management experience of any kind, that does the asset management after you buy it. So there's lots of different hats you can wear, and you need to play to your strengths. Why? Because your strengths are your greatest assets. Don't try to maximize weaknesses. Here's why this is so important. When you love what you do, work is play. Okay, you never work another day in your life, and your strengths are what you love. Okay, so that's a critical piece. The second critical piece is, in anything that you do, you're going to have to influence people, to invest with you, to partner with you, to sell to you, whatever it is. And if you love what it is you do and you're playing to your strengths, you're going to be passionate about it. And that passion will influence people. So super, super important. And that passion is super important because, when you operate from your passion, it's the fuel, right? I mean, it's like what in Jerry Maguire, I think he called it the Quan. You're operating from that passion, and you're inspired. Passion breeds creativity and innovation. It minimizes or eliminates fear, and you're not settling. You're not playing small. So that's why playing to your strengths is so important. And the next thing is who you hang out with, especially in what's coming. Okay. The power of your peer group. You show me your 2 or 3 best friends, I'll show you who you are in every aspect of your life, your relationships, your health, your finances, for sure. And you want to be around people that aren't afraid of your dreams. Okay. And there's plenty of naysayers out there, that out of their fear of failure, or fear of feeling humiliated if you're successful, or even fear of being left behind if you're successful, they will hold you back. Okay. And sometimes it's family. So I'll tell you, love your family, but choose your peers. See, most people, they default to people they work with or people they went to school with. And those may not be the best choices. You need to proactively figure out who you're going to hang out with. Me, I want to be around people that think what I think is hard is easy. Like the weekend after next. Next weekend as well. I'm going to a mastermind. The weekend after that, I'm hosting mine. I host the largest multifamily mastermind, pretty sure in the world now. There's probably about 16 billion in assets in there. But I started it here at my house, at my compound here in Florida. I had 16 people come, and there was about $1 billion in assets at that time. And I just wanted to be around people that were, they again thought what I thought was hard was easy. And it was incredible. And this was 3 or 4 years ago. And now it's this massive thing. And so again, you want to be around people that push you and hold you accountable. When I was losing everything in 2008 and 2009, I was in Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership. Okay. And at that time it was like $100,000 or $120,000 all in with travel. I think it's 3 times that now, but I was around people that were thriving through 08 and 09 crash. They're like, get up, you puss, go 50 million, schmillion, go make it happen. Now, that's who you want to be around when the stuff hits the fan, right? And I believe the stuff's about to hit the fan. So who you hang out with is super important. So, if you're not in a mastermind, get around people that are making things happen, like listening to this show, but, go to your local meetup groups, that people that want more out of life. And that's how you make it happen. I've just got a couple more points if you want me to.
Yes, go for it. Please. You're on a roll, Rod.
I'm taking notes. This is good stuff.
So the next thing, in fact, I just did own your power clip on this, on perseverance, is that tenacity. It's that persistence. It's that grit. It's that determination. It's not giving up. I remember when I lost everything in 2008, I built this litigation support company. It almost went bankrupt in 2010. And then I innovated, I pivoted. And sometimes, by the way, sometimes you have to innovate or pivot in times like this. I remember when COVID hit, I had 800 people scheduled to go to Orlando. I'm like, holy crap, what am I going to do? They'd already bought their tickets. And so I had to innovate. And that's why I went virtual. I built a video studio here at my compound. And now I've had thousands and thousands of people attend my virtual boot camps. In fact, do you mind if I mention that real quick? Let me just.
I was going to bring it up.
Yeah.
But,
all right. Please. So I've got one coming up January 21st and 22nd. It's 2 full days. It's virtual. You can do it at home. If right now the price is $97, it's going to go up to $400. But if it goes up, if you DM me on any social channel, I'm on every single one of them. They've even got me on TikTok now. If you DM me, I'll get you a code to come for that $97 if the price went up. But I don't sell anything there. So it's 16 to 18 hours of training about, if you want to learn multifamily, if you want to learn how to buy apartment complexes, that's what I teach, or even smaller apartment buildings. It's 16 to 18 hours of training, nothing being sold for $97. I mean, I teach every aspect of this business, finding deals, evaluating deals, picking a market, evaluating that market, building a team, financing your deals, syndication, joint venture, property management. And of course, I spend time on mindset. I was telling you guys before we started recording, my students, my coaching students, my warriors own upwards of 100,000 units that we know of. And I've only been teaching less than 5 years. So I'm super proud of that. I think, in fact, I'm most proud of that next to my kids. And that's because I spend so much time on mindset and making sure that you actually take action with what you learn. But anyway, if you're interested in my boot camp, text my name, Rod, to 72345. Or go to multifamilybootcamp.com. Again, that's Rod to 72345, or go to multifamilybootcamp.com. And again, if the price has gone up, just DM me and I'll hook you up with that $97 price. Kind of a no-brainer. I mean, literally, because I don't sell anything there. So if you're serious about this business, get your butt there. It's not a sales pitch. It's not me teasing you about the business. It's drinking through a freaking fire hose. In fact, I've had thousands of people attend and I've never had a complaint other than the breaks are too short, because I do 15-minute breaks every couple hours. And trust me, they're harder on me than they are on you. But anyway, you got to have that tenacity and that persistence, right? And you just can't quit. Even when you're tired, when you go and do a side hustle like real estate, if you've got a W-2 or you're in a rat race, you've got to recognize that you're taking off your employee hat and you're putting on your entrepreneur hat. And as an entrepreneur, you don't quit at 5 o'clock. You quit when you're freaking done. Okay. And that means, having that fortitude and that strength of will and that strength of character and, that bravery and toughness, and recognizing that you're not going to give up. That's the grit. You stay motivated no matter what happens. That's why that burning desire is so important. You recognize that every setback is just feedback. It's feedback. And if you're not getting those setbacks and that feedback, let's be honest, you're not trying. There's no way you're trying. Okay. It's believing in your mission. It's living with that passion and recognizing that feedback is what you need. In fact, you come to my boot camp within 24 hours of coming to my boot camp, you'll get a survey from me, asking you how it went. And I'm looking for that constructive feedback. Of course, 99.9% of the feedback is, oh my God, it was amazing. In fact, if you go to Multifamily Boot Camp, go to the bottom and see the literally hundreds of testimonials that are there, unsolicited. There are hundreds there. But I'm looking for the critical feedback. How can we make it better? What do we do to make it better? Okay. So, anyway, the last thing, this is the last piece, and then let's talk about the economy. Because I think that's really relevant right now. If you guys want, or we can talk about whatever you want, but I thought that would be relevant. So the last piece is gratitude. And you might be like, okay, let's get on with the real estate. But here's the thing. The reason I had 50 million to lose and the reason I got it back was I manifested what I wanted through gratitude. I sat in the recliner behind this green screen here, and I would just be grateful for the things that I had in my life. My beautiful wife, supermodel beautiful, more beautiful on the inside than the outside, my kids, my foundation, my coaching students. And I just do gratitude for a couple minutes. Then I would do gratitude for the things that I want as if I already have them. And sometimes I even get emotional being grateful for things I don't have yet. And I know I lost some of you analytical ones, but this is how I had 50 million, how I got it back. So discount it at your peril is what I would tell you. Okay. You call it prayer, call it whatever you want, but it all comes down to gratitude. Gratitude lowers our blood pressure, makes our heart stronger, brings us closer to spirituality, and it attracts what we want into our life. And again, you can do it through prayer. And so let me share one little story, and then we'll move past this. So, when I was 18 and I was doing my goals, I wrote down, I want to live on the beach. And I lived in Denver. There's no beach in Denver, but I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and the surf. And 20 years later, I built this 10,000 square foot, $8 million home on the beach. Spectacular. I owned the beach on one side, and I had my boathouses on the backside. It was called a Gulf to Bay. It was sliced through an island, which was unthinkable when I was 18. And so again, when you do your goals, take the lid off your brain. Imagine if you can get it. You can imagine if you can imagine it, you can get it. Don't limit yourself. That's the message there. But I worked for this thing for 20 years, and 2 months after I moved in, so 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night, and I'm looking up at this testament to my ego, which is really what it was. In fact, let me describe it real quick. So this house had a giant waterfall from the second floor balcony into the pool. You had to walk through the waterfall to get in the pool. Pool was in magazines. It had a wine cellar, elevator, big spiral staircase up through the middle of the house that was custom carved metal. And then on the second floor, I'll land the plane with this. On the second floor, I had aquariums that cost me almost $200,000 that were built around the spiral staircase. That gives you an idea of the house. So I worked for it for 20 years. 2 months after I moved in, I'm floating in the pool at night. Pool's changing colors. It's got fiber optic lighting. And I'm looking up at this thing, and I got depressed. And I don't mean just a little bummed. I mean, I was really bummed. I'm like, what the hell? I had the Maserati in the garage and the 2 Mercedes and the boat and the jet skis and beautiful family inside sleeping. What could I possibly be depressed about? Well, when I look back on it, there were several things happening, and I want to share. Number one is, you should never achieve a big goal without having other goals lined up behind it, right? Like the good book says, without a vision, the people perish. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. I had no vision for the future. So that's number one. Number two is, it's never about the goals. You got to have them to create that burning desire. But, like they say, the happiest days of a boat owner's life are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell their boat, right? So it's never about the goals, but you got to have them. And so happiness comes from progress and growth. And so you've got to acknowledge your progress, even if it's minor, even little things you do every week. I teach this weekly planning process. And one of the things is to acknowledge what you got done, because again, happiness comes from that growth. But the big thing was I was totally focused on Rod. Show the world I'm good enough. Show the world I matter. Rod. That's the year I went and saw Tony Robbins, because I went and bought some books to get my mojo back. And one of them was his. And I'm like, man, I really like this. This is 22 years ago. And I found out that he fed families for the holidays. And I'm like, what a concept. Do something for someone else. I'm embarrassed to say I had to be 40 to get that memo. But I called my brother when I got back home. I said, bro, I'm coming to Thanksgiving. I'm coming to Denver for Thanksgiving. I was already in Florida. I said, let's feed 5 families for Thanksgiving. And so he called his church, found 5 families that really needed help. And we bought food, and we bought toys for the kids, frozen turkeys, just had a ball doing that. And the 3rd family changed my life, guys. So I go up to this house, and there's this woman in this crappy 1-bedroom, wasn't even a 1-bedroom, with 5 kids. And she comes out, she sees all the stuff on the porch, the food and the toys. She starts crying. Her kids come out, 2 of the older ones start crying. I start crying, and I'm hooked. And I'm blessed to say, in the last 22 years, we've fed over 135,000 children here in Sarasota and Bradenton, Florida. And we've done tens of thousands of backpacks filled with school supplies to kids that don't have the basic supplies. In fact, we just did, 1,500 backpacks this last August. And this year we're going to do our basket brigade. It's called for Christmas instead of Thanksgiving. But we've done tens of thousands of teddy bears for officers to keep in their car. If they encounter a child, they can, comfort that child, child been in some trauma. And I don't say this to brag, but there's a message in this. We've been taught to achieve, to be happy. Like we can't be happy until we've achieved, right? Well, I'm going to tell you, when you give back in any fashion, you are happily achieving. And I know it's a play on words, but it's an important one. Tony Robbins calls it the science of achievement versus the art of fulfillment. Achievement's a science. You want to learn multifamily, get your butt to my boot camp. You'll learn multifamily. I'll give you the map and the blueprint. You just got to go do it. That's a science. But fulfillment is an art. You've got to find out what juices you. For me, it's kids. Maybe for you, it's animals or the elderly or in the environment, whatever. And give back right now. Don't say, okay, you got money, that's why you do it. No, I did it when I didn't have money, okay? You do it right now because the money will come faster. That's the way God or the universe works, right? And so, but give back now so that you're happily achieving and you're fulfilled, okay? Anyway, I'll land the plane there.
Rod, that was some great info. And I got a question for you. I do want to dive into the economy. But before we do, it seems like a lot of people that we interview, or people who are successful, oftentimes they come from humble beginnings. Yeah. Right. And that, I think, is what helped creates that drive. But Rod, you had mentioned that you have a couple kids. What advice do you give somebody who's doing well, trying to make sure that the kids kind of can obtain that grit? And
good question.
Attain
Got
that
it.
drive.
Yeah, no, good question. And I started out making the mistake of spoiling my kids because I had nothing. I bought them cars. Big mistake. Don't do that. Make them help pay for it. They have come full cycle. They're very motivated now, but they weren't back then because of my spoiling them. Frankly, And, so there's my advice there. Make them work for whatever they have. Don't just give it to them. I know you want to, and I wanted to. And, I am taking them I'm taking them to Japan. We're booking it today. Actually, it's right here. Book Japan in my planner. I'm taking them on a trip, but they work their butts off. They've got they're just good people. They've got great friendships. They're motivated and driven, and they help me at my boot camps. My daughter had a health scare. She hasn't been able to help for a year, but she's good now. And they're just, they're motivated now, but of course they're around me, and I'm all about mindset and psychology all the time. So, there's a little bit of an edge there, because, I used to in cant and affirmations, I am success, I am power. And I'd yell it out. And in fact, that's what when at the boot camps, that's the one question they get asked the most. Does he really do that stuff? Run around yelling stuff? Like, yeah. But so I'm probably an anomaly in that regard. But if you can, I would let me give you a gift. If you've got a kid that's over 10 years, and if you're not interested in multifamily, go to rodslinks.com. Rodslinks.com. At the bottom of that is my goal setting workshop that I do. I do it every year. I did it on New Year's Day this year, and it's free. And there's a guide you can download. Have them do that. Have them get clear on what they want. See, here's the problem, guys. People spend more time planning a freaking birthday party than they do designing their lives. Have them, have your kids do their goals. I promise you they'll get juiced. It's a lot of fun. It's very professionally done in my studio with music. And so go there and do the goal set. In fact, even if you're an adult and you haven't done your goals in a quarter or a year, you and your spouse go do them. Do them separately and then compare notes, see how aligned you are. You both headed the same direction, right? But that's a gift to anybody that's got kids, say over 10 years old. A very, very powerful exercise to get them starting to think about what it is that they want, so they're not all over the place. I don't know if that helps, but
yeah, no, absolutely. It does. Perfect.
Okay. Rod, we've alluded to it a few times throughout the interview now at this point, is what I'd like to ask is kind of what your thoughts are kind of moving forward. Yeah. Right. But I was going to frame it as, hey, you've been through 2006 and 2007 and that stuff. You lost 50 million. What are some of the similarities that you're seeing now today and some of the differences?
It's completely different. Let me just say that. Okay. That crash back there was caused because if you could fog a mirror, you could borrow money and buy a house. Okay. And the subprime lending was just lunacy. And of course they killed it on Wall Street, selling all these different exotic packages of loans. It's different this time. And I think it's worse this time, frankly. The Fed has been the political, I think what the Biden administration has done is it either $6 or $8 trillion worth of money they've spent out of thin air that they don't have. They just did another. Yeah, exactly. They just did another, this student loan thing. Thank God the judge has stopped that. Hopefully he'll kill it. Printing money. That's what's caused the problem that we have. That's why our inflation is insane. That's why gas is insane. I don't want to go political here because you don't solve it by printing more money. And I think that was just a ploy to buy votes. But the bottom line is that's what's causing the problem. And these interest rate increases, they're talking about another 75 basis point, or maybe it's a point and a half, at least 75 basis points before the end of the year. I don't know that that's going to stop it is the concern. And the debt in this country is insane. In fact, they had to print more money in September just to pay the interest on that debt. At some point, somebody's going to have to pay the piper. And so, Robert Kiyosaki's of course, been talking about this forever. He thinks it's going to be a major crash. Trump, love him or hate him, said that it could be as bad as the Great Depression. Elon Musk, quote on YouTube, they are lying to you. The crash will be much bigger than they say. There are, by the way, there are 20 million families in this country behind on their utility bills. 20 million families. Okay. These headlines are all buried. You have to dig for them. I was in the foreclosure business. I used to help people out of foreclosure. I had a litigation support company. We would stop a foreclosure. We'd help them modify their loans. We helped thousands of families save their homes. I'd hated the business because nobody's happy when they're losing their home. I sold it a few years ago, but I had lunch with the guy that bought it from me. And he said, there is a tsunami of foreclosures coming. Of course, they didn't just stop the evictions. They stopped the foreclosures as well. So, all of those are hitting now. So listen, there's still a huge demand for housing, and there's a pent up, a shortage, honestly. So that's the other side of the equation.
Right.
But
yeah.
I mean, people there are people struggling to put food on the table when rent has gone up like crazy. Energy costs have gone up, and we won't even talk about what's going on with that in Europe. I was in Europe a few weeks ago for 3 weeks, and I was in all over Scandinavia and Ireland, and man, people were bemoaning how much their energy has gone up. But so it's a global thing. It's not just the United States, but I really think we're heading for a reckoning, and I don't look at it as with fear. Of course, a little fear pops up because I'm dragging around that bag of experiences from 08
Sure.
and 9, but it's more optimism that there's going to be incredible opportunity. Okay. Because I believe everything's going on sale. We're already seeing prices go down in single family. It's about to happen in multifamily as well. There was a lot of greed these last few years. And I don't know if you've heard, Warren Buffett's famous quote, be fearful when others are greedy.
Yeah.
And be greedy when others are fearful. Well, I like I said, I think after the midterms, there's going to be a lot of fear because I think the media is going to make things look terrible and try to make, the other political party look bad. And so without getting into politics, but I think that's what's going to happen. I could be wrong, but I really believe that's what's going to happen. And then, perception is reality. So people will stop spending, which will, of course, make it worse. This interest rate thing is a little crazy, but I remember when I first got in the business, I'm 62 years old. When I first got in the business, when I was 18, interest rates were 18%. I remember doing backflips when they hit 7%. Okay. I'm like, holy cow, we can get 7%. So, it's not about the interest rates as it is about cash flow. And so, if you buy right, I don't care if you're paying 12% interest, you can make deals work if you buy right and they cash flow. I wrote a book. I've got it right here. I give it away for free. It's the #1 bestseller. It's called How to Create Lifetime. You can't see it. How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow. There we go. Maybe you can see it there with multifamily properties. And the reason I bring that up is the subtitle is The New Rules of Real Estate Investing, i.e. the new rules are focus on freaking cash flow. Don't tell me you can buy it for $5 million and the guy that had it before paid $7 million. Irrelevant. How well does it cash flow? So again, it's not a time to be fearful. It's a time to get ready. It's a time to conserve cash. I've cut back most of our spending. I'm in a lot of cash right now. But even if you don't have a lot of cash, if you're talking about this business with other people and you meet people that have some money, you let them know, listen, I'm getting excited because there's going to be opportunity. Once I find some, are you interested in maybe partnering with me and taking down some deals when the quote unquote blood's running in the streets? So, it may not be as bad as I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be pretty bad. I just telling you about my mastermind at my last event 3 months ago. I was the bear. I was the one that was like, man, I think it's going to be ugly, guys. And I was the worst, the bearish one there. Maybe because of my history, who knows? But I hope I'm wrong, because if it's as bad as I think it's going to be really bad. But even if it's just a recession, which is pretty much a given, I think we're in recession right now. There's going to be opportunity. Prices of things are going down. So, there's my 2 cents. I do think, we're heading for some serious pain. And that's why, if you're up to speed and you pick a vehicle, whatever it is, some people are saying it could be the greatest transfer of wealth in history. So, you've got to be ready to capitalize on it. In 2008 and 9, I was hiding under a rock. Okay. I got crushed by that wave. I'm surfing this wave. Okay. So, yeah.
Rod, how do you think specifically this will impact multifamily?
Well, I think like I said, there's been a lot of greed these last couple of years. Like this last year, the primary debt that was used was bridge debt. Okay. Now, what is bridge debt? Bridge debt is the commercial real estate equivalent of hard money loans. Okay. It's the wild, wild west with bridge debt. And here's the problem. Bridge debt was really put in place to bridge the gap between a non-performing asset. You buy it, you fix it up, and then you put long-term fixed rate, like conforming loans on there, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, non-recourse debt. Well, the problem was Fannie and Freddie are smart. And so they started lowering the loan to values, knowing that the stuff is going to start hitting the fan. And so we just closed on an asset in Nashville last week. $33 million deal. We put 60% loan on it. Okay. 60% loan to value. And, we got 10-year fixed rate debt, 5 years of interest only. And, but a lot of operators, and it was just a screaming deal. I still have, 10% cash on cash, upwards of 19% internal rate of return, 20 to 22% annual adjusted return. I mean, just screaming deal. But a lot of operators, to buy deals these last year or so, put bridge debt on because they had higher loan to value. So here's the problem. Bridge debt is short-term debt. I mean, typically it's 3 years. Sometimes you can get 3-1-1 where you can get 5 years, but it's adjustable rate interest as well. And in like a year ago, they didn't insist on rate caps. This last 6 months before the interest rates started popping, you had to pay for a rate cap, but even that's 2%. And when you're talking about a multi-million-dollar deal, 2% is a big deal. We just had a guy that we were looking at an asset in Texas, and they told him his reserves to start getting ready for his loans coming due. His reserves, monthly reserve amount that he had to pay went from $8,000 to $80,000. You think that's going to impact somebody in the business, especially, a lot of these operators these last year or two haven't been through a downturn. They didn't raise operating reserves. Like we always have 6 months of expenses in the bank just in case the you-know-what hits the you-know-what. And so a lot of these operators didn't do that. And so I think we're going to see some pain in the commercial multifamily world, which is where I play. And really pain and opportunity. I mean, we're getting excited about potential opportunity. So there's my 2 cents there.
Rod, you dropped a lot of some great wisdom here.
Thank you.
You made this super easy for us.
Thank you.
All we did was say, "Hey, Rod, how you doing?"
Well, the boy can talk. The boy can talk.
It's great, because the mindset is very important.
Yeah.
Oftentimes,
especially in what's coming.
Yeah, I'm a very analytical person, right? So you were kind of talking to me, right? And too much we focus on the spreadsheet and the numbers. We got to get our head right.
Well, you really got to get out of your head. If you're in your head, you're dead. Honestly, you've got to get out of your head and get into your heart and recognize that you don't have to check off every single box before you make a move. Okay. Sometimes some of the best deals I've gotten had been because I moved quickly. I didn't know all the players. I didn't know everything about the deal. I just knew that it looked good and I had to move. And so for an analytical person, that's probably the biggest hurdle, is that whole analysis by paralysis component and that need to check off every box. That's the biggest hurdle we see in our, when we get somebody that's interested in our coaching program, and to try to push them over the edge, because they're our most successful students. The analytical ones are by far the most successful students, but you got to get them to actually take action and get started. And that's our biggest hurdle. But anyway, yeah.
Rod, real quick before we wrap this up, as you mentioned 2 things, you kind of gave us a teaser on the boot camp, right?
Okay.
I just want to touch on that. January 21st and 22nd, right?
Yeah.
That's the next one. $97, 2-day event. You said it's
it'll go to
hours.
400. It'll go to 400, but I just had to confirm those dates, and that's right. That's the dates. It'll go to 400 ultimately, but just DM me and I'll make sure that. Did I lose you guys? Oh no,
nope, we're here. Nope, we're here.
Oh, crap! I hope I didn't close it out. Anyway, yeah. So again, text my name Rod to 72345 if you're in the car, and I'll send you the link, or go to multifamilybootcamp.com. And it's every aspect of this business. I mean, the manual. Is this the manual? No, that's not it. But I mean, the manual's huge. Trust me. I mean, I'm not like teasing you. It's every aspect of this business. The manual's about that thick. Just so you know, it's up on the thing. I'm not going to drag it down right now. But
okay, yeah.
it's the real deal, and you get tons of other resources that I provide you. I mean, I massively over deliver. Yeah. Again, if you go to multifamilybootcamp.com, just go to the bottom and see what people said. Don't even take my word for it, but it's a lot of fun. You won't get bored. I keep it very interesting, very exciting. You'll do things that, it's not like your typical real estate event at all. But you'll learn a ton, you'll retain a ton, and you'll be motivated. You'll be supercharged, ready to go take action. And then again, if you're not interested in multifamily, go to rodslinks.com. You and your spouse do my goal setting. If you've got kids over 10, do the goal setting. It's at the bottom. All my social stuff is there. There's a lot of free resources there as well. I got free books. You can buy my best-selling book. You just pay the shipping. You get that. And my how to create lifetime cash flow book. It's like $6 to get the physical copy of that. So, if you're serious about this, a lot of free resources there. My website is there. A lot of free resources there as well. The link slides. My link tree is what it's called. Rod's Links. Yeah, there you go.
Rod, we can't thank you enough, man. Really appreciate your time and the resources. We'll make sure that we take those links, put them in the show notes, and that way everybody can find you.
Thanks, guys. Very much a pleasure to meet you guys.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it.
Go make it a fantastic day.
Take care.